2, 1.
This is Matthew Dunkerley and Max Lane, and this is Unit 9 Assignment 2. Max will now do the introduction.
So, in this assignment, we'll be looking at different fitness test results from Premier League side Liverpool FC and their players from their first team, with how they compare to a part-time team Radcliffe FC. This will also include analysis of why and how their results fare off better or worse, and whether the part-time aspect plays a part compared to a full-time team in the league. To compare and contrast how different results compare to the different positions and their different abilities, and also to understand whether they compare well to different teams in different leagues. The hypothesis is elite teams and individuals will have stronger fitness statistics, such as distance covered.
We think this because they'll be training more, they'll have the better staff, they'll have kind of better facilities, so their fitness stats should be better. They should be doing more running in a match because they've got them things around them to help. So yeah.
Comparisons in games with part-time versus professional. Using Player Tech fitness tracking device Catapult found that professional forwards run 21% quicker than part-time players, with the average maximum speed of pro attackers coming in at 9.2 meters per second compared to 7.5 meters per second for a player at semi-professional levels. Some attackers, such as Southampton's Shane Long, Leicester City's Jamie Vardy and Manchester United's Marcus Rashford, achieve higher than this and rack up speeds of 9.8 meters per second, 9.75 meters per second and 9.78 meters per second. Total distance run provides a global representation of volume and exercise, and it is also a simple way to assess individual contribution to a team effort. In a standard 90-minute Premier League game, players cover on an average of 10.5 kilometres, 30% more than the 7.8 kilometres covered by their part-time counterparts.
So here we've got why the differences between the positives and negative aspects of being a part-time player and the positive and negative aspects of being a full-time player. So as you can see here, we've got aspects which affect part-time players. Negatively, you're going to be fatigued from your job. Players have got to work during the week and then go to training, which could affect the running stats because obviously they're tired from work, they're fatigued, could even get injured at work. It's not the main focus in terms of they've got to go to the job, they've got to travel there. You know, the job might take over. If they have to work one night instead of playing football, they might have to do that to get the money for the family and stuff. Low-level facilities, so the pitches might not be as good, which might lead to worse performances and not as good training levels. Low-level staff, again, which means they've not got the best people around them to kind of give them the best advice and help them as players develop. So they're probably going to develop slower because of these things, meaning they've got less chance to get to that high level. And they've got less money to invest in themselves as athletes, so that could be like not as good quality boots because they haven't got the money, or they might not be able to buy themselves cones or like, you know, stuff like that for them to train. So for like individual training, they won't be able to spend as much on equipment. But on the positive side, they've got a motivation to become professional because, you know, there's still like another level for them to get to, whereas pro players might get complacent. There's less pressure from the fans and media because there's less people watching the game usually, less on social media and stuff, so they might feel less pressure and they might enjoy the football more. And they've got less distance to travel for matches, which would probably help them not be as fatigued for a game sometimes. Whereas full-time players, you've got negative pressures like from the fans and the media. You've got a lot of people behind you getting annoyed at you and stuff, and you know the media are going to always be on your case. Long travelling distances to games, which could be a lot of time away from the family, especially when you've got to travel far on Boxing Day and Christmas and things like that, and you've got to train during them times as well. You might not see your family as much. There's a lack of holidays because you know you're constantly playing matches like Tuesday, Saturday. This can like fatigue you as well and kind of just make you tired and lower your motivation levels. And there's a lot of potential for injuries because of the amount of football that you're actually playing. Even though you have the good staff around you, you're still training a lot, and it's a big workload on the body. But on the positive side, it's obviously a lot better to be pro in total. You've got better facilities, you're paid more money, better life quality, there's higher quality staff and more people to look after you, kind of around you, and especially at the elite level there's a lot more money, everything's taken care of, the players are like monitored all the time, they've got the best things for their own recovery, and that's going to help them kind of be better ready for a match and be better ready for training every day, and make them overall better players. So yeah, that's that slide.
So now we'll show the different levels of fitness in a high intensity Premier League match. So this is Liverpool's press, and it shows how much running they do to try to win the ball back. As you can see, they try to trigger the presses quite high, try and win the ball back quite frequently. As you can tell, they run a lot to win the ball. Try and push the team up higher and try and win the ball higher the pitch. As you can tell, they're always constantly moving, no walking like lazy play. As you can see here. And yeah, that's how they win the ball back most time. What they call the Gremlin press, which is Klopp's style of play. As you can tell, I think it's Wijnaldum and I just sprinting to get the ball, which shows the intensity of running, and etc.
The idea is that they force the opponents into mistakes, or they press them high up the pitch, and then the other team might panic, give the ball away, or they give it to a Liverpool player and they can go and attack them. But it's a style of play that requires a lot of intensity, and that's something that they'll have to work on. And it would probably be hard for a part-time team to replicate this kind of pressing and this kind of intensity of play. And that's kind of what the assignment's about, us trying to compare what the part-time players can do compared to the full-time players. And this is an example of how the elite players press and what kind of fitness levels they have when they're forcing other teams into mistakes and pressing out the pitch.
It shows a difference in standard as well. So obviously you wouldn't see this in a part-time game at Radcliffe or anything, as they don't really have the fitness levels to be able to do stuff like that. So yeah, we'll move on. So this is a Radcliffe game. We'll show a little bit of it, but it shows like how the ball's in the air quite a bit. There's not as much running needed for the press and stuff. So as you can tell, the ball's in the air quite frequently. There's not as much running need. Well, they do run a lot, and as you can tell, the ball's out of play quite a bit. There's quite a lot of fouls in the game, so intensity drops quite a lot. The flow of the game isn't quite as high as you'd see in the Premier League for that game that showed for Liverpool.
Yeah, the ball often spends a lot more time out of play, which kind of gives the players a chance to rest, and it gives the players a chance to kind of get ready for the next passage of play and prepare themselves. Whereas when Liverpool were playing before, you could see it was constant. City were trying to keep the ball well, so the Liverpool players had to keep up the press for a lot longer amount of time. Whereas in this game, kind of when there's some pressure, it often leads to a mistake more times than not. So, like I say, there's more breaks in play, and the players can kind of get their breath back and go again, and the intensity is not as high.
Yeah, as you can see, this ball's literally out of play most of the time. It's a lot of set plays, free kicks and stuff, so it just drops the intensity overall. So fitness wise, wouldn't quite need to be at the Premier League level, as the intensity isn't quite a match in a way. So yeah,
external comparison. So we've taken some stats from the Liverpool game versus league rivals Manchester City, and with the part-time team Redcliffe FC, it tracks the game versus FC United, who can be seen also as a bit of a rival for them. With both teams playing rivals, this ensures that the stats are fair and circumstances won't affect the statistics, because kind of they're both playing games against the rivals. It's both going to be a high intensity match, so it kind of replicates that, and it's quite similar for both teams. Liverpool covered 113 kilometres overall throughout the game against Everton, and Radcliffe covered 88 kilometres. That is a massive difference and shows the difference in fitness levels with a 15-kilometre difference. This shows that the level of performance is translated into the fitness, as the gap is quite big, and it does vary quite a lot from the levels, from the part-time level to the elite level. Also, as positions affect the amount of running required, we have compared each position to their running in each team. This will make the information more valid and give a more accurate point. So as you can see here, we've got a graph which shows kind of the differences here between the top speeds in a match. So this gives you a slightly different angle, and you can see here that attackers at the amateur kind of / semi-professional level are doing 7.58 miles per hour on average, and the professionals at 9.2, which is that 21% difference. So that's a big difference in the kind of gap. The midfielder again from 7.06 miles per hour on average in a match to 8.45 at the professional level, and then for a defender 6.87 miles per hour to 8.15 miles per hour, and that kind of gives you an 18% difference. And the overall average of kind of all the positions is 7.17 miles per hour at the semi-professional level and 8.48 at the professional level. So that gives us overall a 19.94% difference.
As you can see on the distance ran, which is quite a good statistic, you can see there's quite a big difference between the amateur / semi-professional level to the professional. As you can see, these for an attacker, it's 7.75 kilometers for a semi-professional player, compared to 9.64 for a professional player, which is a overall 24.39% difference, which is quite big. As you can see overall though, on the average, an amateur player / semi-professional player covers around 7.8 kilometers compared to a professional player, which is 10.47, which is a 34.23% difference, which is actually quite mad, which actually shows like how different it must be, and is a good example. So we have running data.
Yeah, running data. So the running statistics presented here compare an elite level team in Liverpool that we've been looking at with a semi-professional team in Radcliffe FC. The table on the right shows the top 3 runners for Radcliffe in the match against FC United, whereas the table to the left shows Liverpool's top 3 runners from the Merseyside derby against Everton. And it is clear to see that the top 3 runners from the Liverpool game have covered more distance than Radcliffe's top 3 runners. This is expected as they train full time, they have better facilities as we discussed before, they've got high level staff to take care of them and the fitness, everything's planned out for them, the meals, everything they do is orientated around trying to be the best possible players they can be. They don't have other work commitments and things like that, whereas the Radcliffe players do, which will have a big effect. This data is a mix of primary and secondary data. The Radcliffe FC stats are an example of primary data, as we've sourced that ourselves through their kind of player devices, their tracking devices that they use at the club. And the Liverpool data is secondary. It's secondary data, the running stats, because that's kind of taken from Sky Sports, and that's an article published. We've taken that from there. And yeah, whereas the Liverpool running stats taken from Sky Sports. You can see James Milner covered 13.11 kilometres in that match, compared to obviously Radcliffe's top runner, who's only completed 11.4 kilometres. Jordan Henderson's done 12.3 kilometres in the match, whereas Luca Navarro, Radcliffe's second top runner, has covered 11.1 kilometres. Robert Firmino's covered 12.28 kilometres, and Jack Thompson, Radcliffe's third highest runner, has covered 10.8 kilometres. Even though kind of Liverpool have done more distance, this is probably because obviously they're playing at a higher tempo, Other teams are keeping the ball better, so the press lasts longer. The ball's in play more, as Max said before. The ball's in the air less, so it's kind of moved around the surface more and quicker, which means a lot more running, more high intensity runs to get back and defend as well. And also probably at the semi-professional level, the pitches aren't going to be quite as big as they are at the elite level, so the Premier League pitches are going to be that bit bigger, so there's more distances to cover and things like that, which also can play a part, play as an additional factor. And yeah, I think that kind of summarises the running data that we've done.
So research methods. We have taken running stats statistics from Radcliffe FC match against FC United. This is set as primary data recorded by GPS tracking devices which were worn by the players. We then gathered data on the Liverpool FC's running stats from Sky Sports to compare the differences between elite level full-time players and semi-professional part-time players. We have compared these two sets of data to see which team has the highest distance covered. We have done this by taking the top 3 runners from a random match from each. So yeah, we've got this one now.
Findings compared to aims and objectives. So the results from our data show that Liverpool FC players cover more distance in a match than Radcliffe. This is indicated by Liverpool's top 3 runners in the match against Everton in a comparison to Radcliffe's top 3 runners in their match against FC United. And like Max said before, it's quite a comparable game to do with one another, because Radcliffe's kind of a local kind of derby rivalry with FC United, and obviously Liverpool's a big derby with Everton. So both sets of players in them games are going to be up for a match. They're going to be giving it their all. So that makes it quite comparable. And also the data matched our original hypotheses that elite players would typically cover more distance in a match than non-league / part-time players. And this is due to the fact that Liverpool players train full-time in elite level facilities. Not only this, but the Liverpool players have a number of staff looking after them. Staff members to help them achieve peak fitness levels and avoid injuries. This is the reason that the Liverpool players cover more distance in matches. However, there are other factors affecting these statistics. For example, pitches tend to be larger in the Premier League, meaning players are forced to cover more distance than non-league players. Running stats vary massively based on players' position and their role in the team, and this is why no players displayed on the data table play at centre-back or goalkeeper, because they require the least amount of running. So yeah, that kind of summarises the comparison that we found.
So, going back to the introduction, the hypothesis was that elite teams and individuals will have stronger fitness statistics, such as distance covered. I believe through that presentation we've shown that that's true, that the standard in distance and level is quite big, and overall I think professional players do cover a lot more distance throughout the league, despite playing as much games as possible. Like the aspects such as such as the stats shown here. Where is it? Overall, that just shows and proves our point to a T. Basically, just that shows how much percentage difference that they run overall, and yeah, and
I think that's about everything. Yeah.